Hey, what's up? It's me, Phil, and today we're gonna do a corruption review and maybe a little bit of a RTC review. We'll see about it. So we have a stockpile by someone called NEVEO JACKO. It is a stockpile of Super Mario Bros. 1 on the NES, which has been titled Hell. A little bit of a disclaimer before we start. This is a review. My comments are criticism. And since this is a very short stockpile, together we're going to review how to use RTC. So we're gonna start. And the first one's called Mario's Infinite Power. So the first thing we're seeing here is that it would seem that Mario's power state has been locked to the star power, and you know, there's things happening. Next one's called Game Boy Mario Brothers, and in this corruption, we have a palette disappearance, if you want. This is a mode that the NES supports, which allows you to disable the colors of the palette, and instead it lets you visualize the contrast instead. Next one's called Psychedelic Mario Bros. Psychedelic Brothers, and it seems like we have a fast timer and the tiles are messed up. And the effect, not all the effects persisted through the loading. So before we go further, I want to look at what's inside of it. So here we have a 64 bits. Wow, a 64-bit precision unit. All of units seems to be like that. They are storing the content of an address, and then they are reapplying them for every frame. And this seems to be done with the custom engine, because the vector engine doesn't support creating lifetime 0 units. And yeah, so it's taking the value from this address and it is piping. No, it is taking the value from this address and it is sending it to this address every frame. Interesting. What about this one? We have the same exact thing. How about this one? And we have the same exact thing. Okay. So before we dive any further, I'm just gonna give my review. Essentially, they're not the Nightmare engine, so you have tried something else in the default settings. But even though you didn't use the default settings, all three of these corruptions have very little impact. I would probably need to play it further to see the extent of the corruptions. We have a bunch of invisible vines here, which causes Mario to there is some level fuckery, but I can't progress any further, so that's kind of a shame. Next one, is it playable? Can we do something? The Goombas are throwing hammers. There was an invisible axe from the castle. So I guess I'm gonna progress to the next level. Nope, not happening. And this one I just die. So yeah, okay, I'm gonna go back to my previous statement, which is that these are not very entertaining. Obviously, these wouldn't make the cut for a streaming stockpile because they're so short and they have so little that it's kind of hard to, you know, do anything with them. But we can use them to review some of the key features of RTC. So I'm gonna dissect these and we're gonna look at what happened here. So I think I was wrong. This is not the custom engine. This is most likely the pipe engine at precision 64 bits. Let's see if, and you had intensity 50. Let's see what happens. I'm gonna steal your save state. There you go. Oh, wait. Oh, there are some baked effects. So they're virtually unusable because when you created the save states, they had already corruption. But we can fix it. We can reboot the core, and that's fine. So let's see. Was this the pipe engine at intensity 50? 64 bits? That's the wrong button. That's the right button. Not quite. Because the value is empty. But we're getting essentially the same basic blast layer, right? We're getting 50 units, precision 8, and we're getting from an address to another address with lifetime 0, sources store. So yeah, that's essentially that. Okay, since your effects are, some of them are baked, I'm gonna have a hard time sanitizing them. Oh, that's nice. I like the color of that Goomba. What about we isolate the color of that Goomba, right? Let's use a sanitize tool. I'm gonna redo this, right click, sanitize. We're going to use a sanitize tool to find this gray Goomba. There he is. Yes, this is the effect that I'm looking for. Nope, the Goomba's brown. 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 Brown again. And this one is gonna be gray. There he is. We have a gray Goomba. And it's not just that, because this is a 64-bit pipe, this means there are 8 bytes that are being piped. And so this means the effect is not a single value. Can we break it down? I don't know. Let's try it out. First I'm gonna send it to the stockpile. We have a gray Goomba. But it's not just a gray Goomba, there's multiple effects. Let's see what we can do with this. So we have precision 8, and we have a tool in here called break down all blast units. So here we essentially have our 64-bit pipe broken down to 8 units. And if we load it, we should have the same exact effect. So we can sanitize it further. Let's try it out. Let's find that gray Goomba. There he is. Brown. gray, and gray. There you go. The gray Goomba. Now that we find the gray Goomba, we can see the extent of this single unit. It's doing a lot of stuff. How about we attempted to bake this unit to a value? This turns the pipe into what would be generated from the Nightmare engine. Can we keep the gray Goomba? Nope, we can't. It would seem that this effect was actually dependent on the fact that it is being piped every frame. Interesting. Can we re-roll this effect? What can we do with this? Ah, a different outcome. So you see here, you have a button called re-roll, and that lets you use what you've already made and try something using the same unit. Now we've got another gray Goomba. Okay, can we change the color of the Goomba to something else? Not necessarily, but we're sure changing the scenery to something different. And we're still working on the same unit. Interesting. These are purely visual, it seems. There's really nothing about them that changes the gameplay. Unless... no, it is visual. But why is it visual? I want to look at the contents of the unit. Why is it only visual? Let's observe. So what's happening here is that it is taking a byte from this address in the WRAM, and it is sending it every frame to this address in the RAM. So there is no particular reason why it's visual. It's just that at this address there's something happening. Let's observe that address. Let's see what's happening. So this address contains the value FF. This is the target address. And it seems like it's not doing much. What if we change it? Oh yes, we have a unit there. Oh, very interesting. So this is an address that usually changes all the time, and because we're piping some data to it, it seems that we're causing these changes to not happen like they're supposed to, right? Very interesting. Okay, let's look at something else. Now we're gonna quickly review the many units, many engines, and I'm gonna give you a brief explanations of what they do and what you can expect from them. The Nightmare engine, its purpose is to generate garbage that will only be applied once to the game. Like, it's gonna corrupt and it's gonna leave it like that. One frame, a single time. And by default, with the blast type random, it will replace a byte or multiple bytes with a value that is a minimum up to a maximum, a random value. If it's a tilt, that means it's gonna either tilt it back 1 or forwards 1. So If the value is 5, it can then become 4 or 6. That's what tilt does. Random tilt is a combination of the two. It's going to either replace it with a random value, or it will tilt it back and forth, but only once. The Hell Genie, it's like the Nightmare Engine on random, except that the Hell Genie works like a cheat. It works like what you would expect from a game genie code, for example, hence the name Hell Genie. What it does is that it will generate a value that replaces what's happening in the game, but it will keep this corruption happening every single frame. So you see in the example that I gave seconds ago, we saw a value that kept changing over and over and over again. If there was a unit generated with the Hell Genie that affected this value, it would generate a new value, and then it's gonna hold it in place. And this value is just not gonna change as long as the unit is there to replace the value every single frame. That's what the Hell Genie does. It's very similar to Nightmare Engine. Nightmare Engine happens once, Hell Genie once every frame. The Distortion Engine, what it does is it looks at the memory, right? At a random address, and it takes notes of what value was there. If the value was 5, it will remember, the value was 5. And then it's gonna wait a certain amount of frames. You see here the distortion delay? This is the amount of frames that it's gonna wait. It's gonna wait 50 frames. And after these 50 frames, it's gonna reapply the value that it had before at the same place. The reason why we call it the distortion engine is because it's kind of a time distortion. It takes the things from the past and brings it back into the future. That's basically what it does. The freeze engine is like the Hell Genie. However, instead of generating random values and then locking them in place, it takes the current value that is already there and then it locks it in place. So you can end up with things like, let's do something real quick with the freeze engine, just for fun. I'm gonna make Mario jump, and then we're gonna corrupt it until we find Mario's Y position. Why not? I'm sure we'll be able to do it. It would be easier if we targeted the RAM, because Mario's Y position is in the RAM. Oh, there it is. Can he move? Yes, he can. Mario has been frozen at its Y coordinate. Let's sanitize it. Yes. No. Yes. No. Yes. Yes. Now we know that Mario's Y position has been found. And look what we can do. We can disable the freeze. If I do that, then the freeze just disappears. What if I re-enable it? Mario's back in the air. Oh, see this? We've discovered that this is not Mario's Y position, but his velocity. So we can preserve Mario's momentum in the air. If we freeze it while he's ascending, he's gonna go high up. If we manage to freeze it while he's exactly right about to fall, he's gonna freeze in the air. And if we freeze it while Mario's descending, oh. It has some interesting effects. So yeah, it is not the Y position, it is the... seems like it's the Y acceleration. And this is what the freeze engine does. It allows you to freeze some values. The pipe engine, like I said earlier, takes values from a place and send it somewhere else. So there is no clear way to demonstrate that. It's just what it does in the memory, right? It does really wacky things. Seems like we've made some kind of a weird loop where some tiles are being displayed over and over again, but the enemy patterns, I am progressing in the level. It seems. Or not. Is it a loop? I think I'm looping. Interesting. Next one is the vector engine, and this we can't really use that on the NES. The vector engine is basically an engine that lets you take lists of values and it lets you compare them to a limiter list, and if it matches this list, it can replace them with a value list. It's more complex than most engines. It's not just generating random garbage. It's making sure that we are targeting things that are compliant to sets of values that have been predetermined. That's how we make 3D corruptions more viable. And the cluster engine works similarly to that, in that it uses a limiter, but what the cluster does then is it flips, no, not it flips, it lets you perform operations on neighbor values. I think I have my any lists here, right? Yeah. Let's have fun with the... let's play around with the video memory. I can display this with the video memory. I'm gonna just find a place that's nice, like that. And which one is the video memory? I don't remember. I think it's the CHR VROM, right? Maybe. I'm gonna pick any 8. I'm gonna make it rotate. And I'm gonna auto corrupt. Does it do anything? Nope. This maybe? Oh, whoa. That's... that was How about the WRAM? No? CHR? Ah, there it is. Now you can see what it actually does. It moves stuff around. You can make it go backwards, forwards, random, reverse, overwrite. There's many algorithms that you can use with the cluster engine. This is obviously just a demonstration using the autocorrupt, but you can also use it with the glitch harvester. So yeah, basically since your stockpile was really short, I figured out that we could have a little bit of fun discussing the various engines. Why not? Hopefully that gives you ideas of things you could do to Mario 1 if that's the game that you want to corrupt. This applies to many games, many systems. This is knowledge that is really universal to the whole corruption thing with RTC. So yeah. So just to recap my review, your corruption stockpile was very, very, very meh. Sorry, that's just so basic. It's not even entertaining. But I hope you learned something. I love to give some tips and tricks, and that's what I just did. So yeah, have a nice day.